I'm sitting here with Lynn Beckman. You're from Garrett County, correct, Lynn?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Awesome. So Garrett County local.
Yep, grew up in Garrett County.
Awesome. And now stayed in Garrett County. Did you ever leave?
Oh, yeah, I left the mountaintop and went into pastoral ministry back in 1977,
Oh,
and then came back to Garrett County uh, we built our house here in about 1987.
okay.
But I continued in pastoral ministry and then was on staff in administration at the Burlington United Methodist Family Services Children's Home at Burlington, West Virginia. And I drove from Garrett County to Mineral County for that.
Oh goodness. Was that over an hour?
About an hour,
About an hour.
something like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So we connected basically because I saw a social media post that you were the executive director of the Promotion Council for Garrett County. That was in 1968?
I went there in 1967.
67.
Uh,
Okay.
67, and left there in 1970. I was only in the council 3 years, but had an offer from First National Bank of Oakland, now First United, and so I went there in 1970.
Okay. So we had chatted a little bit. My background is marketing, so I'm really kind of enamored and impressed with the learning more about that promotion council and what got you interested. Was it just a simple job posting, or was it something that you kind of had in the back of your mind that you were interested in? Tell me more.
Well, no, I was in broadcasting prior to that, and
Oh,
I actually had started out in broadcasting for a short stint in Cumberland, but then they opened the radio station in Oakland, and so I went to work as a broadcaster, DJ, and then was local news director and disc jockey and whatever for several years at the MSG when they first went on the air. I was one of the, I guess I was, other than the staff they brought from elsewhere, I was the only Garrett County and really on staff at that time. And so, I was promoted to assistant manager, 4 Star Broadcasting, and also owned a station in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. And because of a management issue and so forth, they promoted me to assistant manager and sent me to Berkeley Springs. And that's where I was. Met my wife there. And when I came back to Garrett County, I brought a wife and a child back with me.
hmm.
Our first son, Rick, was born while we were in Berkeley Springs. So, anyway, an opportunity opened up. Tom Butcher, who was the general manager of WMSG in Oakland, knew about me and my work ethic and so forth. And when Patricia Kettle left the promotion council, it left a vacancy for that post. And Tom, unbeknown to me, he was on the board of directors of the promotion council, and he said, "I know somebody who could fill those shoes." And so the board agreed to interview me, and they do it, and I got the job that way. But I never really applied for it. Tom Butcher was instrumental in getting my name before the board there.
And with your experience in journalism and news desk and broadcast, I'm sure it was just a natural fit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah, and it was a challenging job. A lot going on in those few years that I was there, but it carried on and really became kind of a focal point for my career. Otherwise, I'm a marketer too,
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, and but I think of myself a little more as a communicator,
Mm-hmm.
and so. and I think the two go together. So anyway, that's yeah, that's how that all evolved. And even after I left the promotion council, went to the bank, I continued with the promotion council. I became the president of the council for several years, and and continued. And of course, we got into the Autumn Glory Festival and all of those things that were a part of what I had done as executive director of the council, and I continued on with those activities as a volunteer even after I left the council. So, and I was on the board. Like I say, I was president of the council for several years.
Yeah, and to your point, marketing is just kind of pointed communication, right? I mean, it's got a certain intended audience, and you're just trying to communicate efficiently and expertly, and reach your audience there. It's just fascinating to me. So growing up in Garrett County, did you have an idea of kind of the opportunity that was in front of us to make this area into a four-season destination, or was that seed kind of planted by someone else and you're like, maybe this does have some legs?
Well, it really, I never really let it sink in during my growing up years. But when I went to the promotion council, it became quite evident, and people were saying to me, we have a basic summer economy here. And it's hard to create a year-round viability for a business and so forth on a 3-month budget. And so
Mm-hmm.
they were really looking for four seasons opportunity, and that was the concentration then. Of course, the WISP was heavily a part of that, and that was another launch point for marketing a year-round concept for Garrett County. Yeah.
What were some of those early challenges? That was well before Interstate 68 came to town. Did people kind of look at you crazy and say, "How in the world am I going to get all the way out there to those mountains?"
No, well, transportation was an issue, and I wrote an article way back in my earlier days at the promotion council pointing that out.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, I had some folks who climbed on board with that idea and said, "Hey, we're working on the same kind of thing you're talking about, and let's concentrate on that." And it took a long time to get the interstate, but it was something that was certainly needed in order to fully develop what our vision was at that point in time. We
Mhm.
getting people here and getting people back home was certainly crucial.
Yeah. What was that vision that you all had as the promotion council when WISP was just getting started there? Was it a certain number of visitors, a certain revenue threshold? What did success look like?
I'm going to use one word and say viability. It was all of what you suggested, but the viability of making a good foundational launch pad for the businesses that were engaged in the tourism industry to be able to uh, expand that and make it more viable for them to continue in business.
Mhm.
So that that was the thrust, and looked at it from that vantage point more than otherwise.
Now, when you're speaking about the vision, did you have a nice little neat vision statement, or was it more just a feeling or an anecdote?
More of a feeling and desire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To just to put words in your mouth, to summarize, just more people learning about Garrett County, learning that there is a wonderful four-season area here. We do get snow. We're sitting here chatting with with about 6 or 8 inches on the ground right now. It's just kind of almost a magical place.
Right. We had the elements.
Mm-hmm.
At what was necessary to make it a Four Seasons destination. However, it needed a little tweaking and some development in order to, give some focal points to it.
Mhm.
But it was uh, we had the elements. In other words, we knew we had the elements for a Four Seasons destination. What
Mhm.
we needed was something to point to for each of those of the Four Seasons. So what we needed was handed to us. In the Four Seasons, but what we needed in order to market that were focal points for those seasons.
That
And
makes a lot of sense, yeah.
yeah,
So along that line, what was the mood in the county about growth and development and tourism in the late 1960s? So basically, growing up here in Garrett County, we haven't been so welcoming to all of the visitors and tourists. So I was just curious as to what the mood was about growth and tourism and development in the late 1960s. Were people generally for it? Did they understand that long term vision? Or did you have some naysayers?
there were naysayers, but they were in the minority. We didn't
Mm
hear much along those lines. For the most part, from my vantage point, it was, "Hey, let's go,
hmm.
and
Mm hmm.
move." And that was the primary feeling, I think, across the county. Uh, it was, I think people realized that tourism could become a very viable and leading industry for the county.
Mm hmm.
And so, for the most part, the population was supportive, at least from my experience.
Okay.
My wife just handed me the note. She wanted me to remind you that at one time, one of the slogans was Maryland's best kept secret,
Mm hmm.
and another one was Maryland's mountaintop playground, and that's one of the primary ones when I joined the council.
Did you come up with that one or
It was already there. I'm not sure if it came out of the promotion council or if it came out of the tourist division of the economic development department of the state government out of Annapolis. I'm not
okay?
sure where that originated. We had a real close working relationship with the tourism division of economic development in state of Maryland out of Annapolis at the time when I was director of the promotion council.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, we had a close working relationship.
We and, I think we connected over a photo where you were with, Senator Tidings, was it?
Yes, right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
S
Yeah, that was a big deal when Senator Joseph Tidings came to Garrett County, and WISP was his focal point, and it really gave a lot of credence to what we had or what had been developed up to that point, and it really sent a message across the state and elsewhere that hey, take a look at Garrett County. There's something happening out there, and this is a part of it. So
Mhm.
and focused on the WISP, yeah,
Yeah.
which was a real boon to the winter season.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm sure.
Then shortly, along about that same period, uh, the snowmobiles hit the county and gave another dimension to winter activity, as well as the ice fishing and the snowboarding and things like that that people were doing on their own.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, so it helped to really flesh out the winter season.
Yeah, so we were chatting about the snowmobiles coming on the scene. Is this, like, the first snowmobiles someone came up with the idea to put ski tracks on, or was this kind of the first time, um I
The first snowmobiles that I knew about that came to the county, entrepreneur by the name of Don Bowman up at McHenry there had
Mhm.
service station at the top of the hill going up out of McHenry, and he had the franchise for Skidoo
Oh,
uh,
okay.
snowmobiles. They were the first ones into the county, and it was quite lucrative for him. I knew it caught on. Then, Arctic Cat and Polaris and Yamaha and Suzuki and other companies that were manufacturing snowmobiles or started to along
Mm-hmm.
about entered the county, and it really there was a real proliferation of activity with snowmobiling during those years. As a matter of fact, there was an enthusiastic group that sponsored snowmobile races, generally held on the fairgrounds here at McHenry.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And were the races just a straight track, a 5 or 6 second straight track, or were they doing laps, or what?
It was circular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how they did them, whether it was timed or
Mm-hmm.
how they did that. But it got to be quite an activity with trophies being presented and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There, while it really there was a lot of enthusiasm for that.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Should have checked my notes beforehand, but New Germany State Park had kind of the quote unquote first ski resort. Was there any crossover with the WISP just getting started? Do you recall?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
No.
I might have been in the 40s or 50s. I'm not sure. Um, it was like the Civilian Conservation Corps made some improvements there at New Germany State Park, and that's present day. I always say that New Germany State Park is kind of that ski first park because they do the Nordic skiing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, my understanding of WISP and all of that was you see, that mountain is basically a north face mountain. And people discovered that not only being a north face mountain, it accumulated snow, but it also had the tendency to hold on to the snow longer.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were people who were skiing on the mountain, but really before it was ever really developed into a ski resort. And WISP, evolved out of that. And I'm not sure what might have been in Helmuth Heiss's mind at the time, but certainly he realized that that mountain had some special qualities, and toward developing something there that was a destination resort rather than just a place, a cow pasture, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
to for people to ski. And I've often thought about this, Sarah, that what better location could there have been than WISP? If you think about it, the Four Seasons are right there, with the mountain and the autumn beauty and so forth, and then the winter sports, and then of course they've developed more over the years, but your proximity to the lake with the fishing and the streams and so forth, and then the whole summer recreation thing. And I think about, and I'm not a skier, but I think about coming down the mountain in the wintertime on skis, overlooking a Deep Creek Lake and the whole McHenry Valley below there, and the picturesque scene, being so picturesque. It's kind of an exciting thing for me to think about, what is really all together right there in that location. Just if there's an epitome of Four Seasons in Garrett County as far as location, it seems to me like that would certainly be one, if not the one.
Absolutely, I would have to agree. While you're talking too, I'm just thinking of an updated slogan. And, we just as locals want people to be able to experience the absolute magic and joy and experience itself of Garrett County. So I'm, not to put words in Ace's mouth here, but locals were already skiing there. It's just kind of like, how can we amplify? How can we get more people to experience this wonderful place?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said earlier, we were given the elements, we were given the foundation. It was all there. All we had to do was to find that connecting point, from a marketing point, that connecting point that would bring the traveler, the visitor, to the county, and then once they got here, they would experience the whole array of what Garrett County offers, but we needed that little pinpoint that was a destination driven experience, and once they got here, oh wow, there's a lot more.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think our conversation just kind of came full circle there with we're just trying to communicate and trying to share what we've been given, and it's just amazing. I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So, random question that I was reading through your article that you have written for the Glade Star, which shout out to the Glade Star. It's a quarterly publication that's here
Yeah.
locally, produced by the Garrett County Historical Society.
Yes,
And
right.
it's a wonderful trove of information. Good.
Yeah, well, they do a fabulous job of gathering artifacts and articles, and documenting the history and so forth of Garrett County, and the museums that they operate in Oakland there are outstanding. I don't know of any other community that I can think of in close proximity anyway that has the emphasis on the history of the county, and not only just the emphasis, but actually the artifacts and the documentation to support the history of the county and so forth. It's a fantastic organization, and my hat's off to them. And I get to write an article here or there that they favor and publish, and
Hmm.
real happy about that. But
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to that organization. I think you can subscribe, excuse me, for a nominal fee per year, but also they have archived all of the past editions, and it's just I love to read through some of those older perspectives about what life was like in Garrett County 50 years ago. And some of the crazy things that people got into. I'm not sure if you were witness to any of those water ski competitions where they stacked folks into pyramids and pulled it behind a boat.
well, I've heard about those, but I didn't
Yeah.
experience any of them.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds a little too crazy for me, but there's just wonderful accounts of things that used to happen around here. And also, I appreciate your perspective of continuing to write for the Glade Star, to document present day. So it's great.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that came up in your article, you had mentioned that you were looking to talk to Ace about a display that you were going to take on a traveling kind of road show to help promote the county, and you were told that he was up on the mountain at the ski area planting trees. Um,
You're right. That's where I found him, up on Marsh Mountain. He had his seedlings and his shovel, and he was up there planting trees with the vision of developing trails that would continue to accumulate and hold the snow. And he was a very hands on operator in whatever Ace engaged in. He was there hands on. And his worth ethic and perspective was not what you would always find with an entrepreneur, but his was, I'll get out there and I'll get it done. And that's what he did.
so, as the story is written, you climbed up the mountain to find him. Do you have any sense? Do you remember where that was? Are those trees still standing?
No, I don't know exactly what slope I found him on, and I don't know about the longevity of the trees either, but I would assume that they're still there.
Mhm. And
Thanks.
I think that just kind of speaks to the visionary nature of Ace. I never personally had met him, but as the quote goes, as the adage goes, the best time to plant a tree is yesterday. The second best time is right now. And I just kind of in my brain that just epitomizes Mr. Heiss and his vision long term to planning.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah. That's a good description of Ace. Yep.
and from an entrepreneur standpoint, as an entrepreneur myself too, I like to also quote the adage, the entrepreneur is the only one that will work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week for someone else.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
you
it's something like that.
Yeah, and it just all the stories that I've heard about Ace, that's really what he embodied, get it done. He'll talk about marketing and promotion and what your display should look like while he's planting saplings, of course, whatever needed to be done. So,
Well, yeah, he was a visionary, one of the early motel operators on the lake, and he and his family, and he had a vision that was a lot bigger than a lot of folks in the county. There were some. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but there were some back in the early days of when the lake was being developed, and it wasn't really being developed for tourism. It was developed as an energy source by the Pennsylvania Electric Company to
mhm.
produce power for their grid. And of course, they bought up a lot of land and things like that. And people kind of looked at that as like, well, that's my bottom land there. You're flooding my bottom land. But of course, folks were compensated for that naturally. But there were people way back in the 1920s when all this was going on that didn't have the vision that an Ace Heiss had in later years when he looked at the lake and saw opportunity that was yet to be developed.
You're
Uh,
absolutely correct. Yeah.
and speaking of him, he was the founder, the actual motivator behind the development of the Deep Creek Lake Garrett County Promotion Council. His vision was, we need uh, something that will take up the marketing end of this and be an acceptable thing as far as, outlets are concerned for news articles and things like that.
Mhm.
And so he proposed the idea of the promotion council, whether it was his idea or whether he borrowed it from some other locale, I'm not sure. But he presented it to some local business people, and the idea caught on. They incorporated, and he actually served as the president and staff person as a volunteer for the early years of the council until it got to be a point where it needed more than he could give to it. And then I believe, and I'm not positive about this, but I believe the first hired person was Patricia Kittle. And then when she left, then I was the next person in.
And as far as hired staff, you were the executive director. Did you mention that you had an assistant?
Uh, so, office secretary, her name was Sue King. She was my secretary in the office, and it was basically the two of us. But
Mhm.
we would bring in a person here and there, in one way or another, when there were peak seasons, or especially when we were developing the Autumn Glory, trying to get publicity out and things like that. We had part-time person come in, and also had a standing arrangement with the community action, and they had a program, a trainee program, and at times we would have an assigned trainee to come into the office and do some of the processing and stuffing envelopes and that kind of thing. So
Hmm,
yeah, but basically it was Sue King and me in the office.
nice. Now, and to your point about Mr. Heiss being a visionary, just last year the lake celebrated 100 years, and I had the opportunity to sit down with the previous lake manager, Eric Knoll, and he was sharing that essentially Deep Creek Lake happened by accident because that Pennsylvania Electric Company was looking for several acres to be able to put a power generating hydro plant. And of course, they started looking in Pennsylvania where their operations were based. And the land barons at the time, the Carnegies, um, didn't want to give up big swaths of land because there was coal um, there. So they didn't want to essentially take that land out of commission to not be able to get to the coal. So they came down to Garrett County, and it was sort of a situation of not in my backyard. Like, "Oh, we'll just put it in Garrett County. No one's really there. No one's really doing anything there. And we can easily get the power back, across the state line." So it's kind of fascinating how Deep Creek came about. And it's actually one of the healthiest lakes as far as water quality because of the way that history happened. So that's probably a separate conversation. I want to make sure I get my facts straight, but it's just really fascinating how things lined up to end up where we are now, and how early on, it was what, 25 or 30 years into Deep Creek Lake existing before anyone really jumped on the opportunity like Mr. Heiss did.
Right, exactly. Yeah, precisely. Yeah, and there were folks who didn't understand, and I even think about it today that there are people. I know there are people who come to Garrett County and Deep Creek Lake and enjoy the lake and have absolutely no idea that it is a power generating source. They don't, because it's so clean, and there are other locales where there are lakes, but then the lake water is used in a different way, and the generation comes from another source,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is coal or whatever, and it's not the same experience. But yeah, I'm sure that there are folks who come and enjoy and really don't even think about the power generation aspect of it and what caused it to be in the beginning.
And it's still producing power. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it is.
yeah. Brookfield Renewable US, I believe, is the company name that still operates. I was fortunate enough to be able to go on a tour a couple months ago, and it's fascinating that a lot of the equipment is still operational from when they first started producing power. And I want to get my facts straight, but it was actually remotely operated back in 1950. They used telephone lines to be able to essentially turn it on and turn it off from
Right.
a remote location, which just boggles my mind. Garrett County is excellent for remote work now, but heck, we had a remotely operated power station 70 years ago, which just
Yeah,
is
right. When
crazy.
thinking about remote facilities was really on the other page. I mean, you
Hmm.
know, yeah, that's an interesting fact. Well, as I understood the generating plant at Deep Creek, it was turned on and off, like you said, based on need. It wasn't online necessarily all the time, but in peak periods or whatever, it was pulled online, as
Hmm.
I understand the function of it. And I've also heard, as a matter of fact, read something here recently where after Deep Creek, there were ideas about maybe developing some other lakes in Garrett County for the same kind of purpose, but that never materialized.
Yeah, yeah. We had one of our lakefront writers talk about how Deep Creek Lake almost wasn't, because there were other sites that were looked at for hydroelectric power. Um, but come to find out, there where the dam is off of Stockslogger Road ish, that area of Garrett County, there was a significant elevation change. So that's why they decided to go there. So I'll link that in our show notes here, because it's just fascinating how everything has just come together. So I don't it boggles my mind, my simple mind.
Well, mine too. Mine too.
One last thing I wanted to talk with you about, Lynn, is the Asa Stanton connection. I know that Garrett College actually has a collection of his artwork. It might even be the largest collection of Asa Stanton work, and very talented artist. Tell me more about working with Asa.
Well, Asa was he was on the board of directors for a while at the promotion council, and when I first went to the council and we were talking about working road travel shows and so forth, we needed a display. And Tom Thayer and I sat down and thought about what we needed for a display and how we might go about getting something together. And of course, Asa was well developed into marketing and advertising for the half price stores as they were then, and they later the HP stores or the Happy People stores.
Mm.
Anyway, he had a shop in the warehouse area at Loch Lynn, and so he was the go-to for ideas as to how we could develop a display that we could transport easily, that one person could handle, and but yet be attractive and call attention in the midst of all the other displays at a travel show. And so Asa was the guy, and he had the wherewithal, the not only the materials to work with, but he also had the tools to work with. And so, with Asa's leadership and so forth, we ended up getting a display made, and Asa was instrumental in the design and the fabrication of that.
That's incredible. Just to look back in history, you had mentioned in your article, I'm kind of laughing because one of the features was actually a taxidermist mounted trout. Do you know whatever happened to the trout?
Well, the last I knew, it still belonged to Johnny Marple at Johnny's Bait House, and I'm not sure with what's happened to that facility now, where the fish might be, but it carried the Maryland State citation for the largest trout, that species, in the state at that time. And of course, it was an attention getter, so I would borrow it when I was going to go to a travel show. I'd borrow it from Johnny Marple, and it hung on part of the display in the travel shows, and it got a lot of attention. And so in what it turned out to be, rather than a meal, it turned out to be a part of a marketing scheme for Garrett County, and got a lot of attention.
I just picture you walking into some of these convention centers in the late 60s, trout underarm, and people kind of doing a double take saying, "What in the world is this guy doing?" Did you
Yeah.
experience that?
Well, nobody ever commented on it, but they probably looked at me kind of weirdly, wondering
Yeah.
what this is, carrying a pet fish around. But
Right, right. Well, there's that fish guy again. No. I should check with Johnny and see if he's still got that. He probably does. I know a lot of his memorabilia ended up at his house, he said. I was fortunate enough to sit and chat with him a couple years ago. He's just a cool guy, a cool guy.
Johnny Martin,
Yes.
one of the best. I always enjoyed being with Johnny, and he was a real supporter of the council when I was executive director. And he was affiliated with the magazine Fishing in Maryland. I'm
Hmm.
not sure if it still exists or not, but all the citations and the measurements and the weights and so forth of fish he would report, and they would be published in that magazine. And it was that was another outlet, and Johnny was foremost in that part of promotion in terms of fishing in Garrett County. He that was his bailiwick, and he was good at it, and had the, like I said, the attention of the Fishing in Maryland magazine. That was a good outlet for that part of the market. So
Hmm. Yeah, things are just seem to be coming full circle. Outdoor recreation is a buzzword in state tourism offices, and I was just on a call yesterday with the state advisory committee for bicycles and pedestrians, and it's Garrett County has just been this treasure trove of outdoor recreation, if you want to put that buzzword on it. But it's just experiential. It's just you got to find those folks on the ground that just really know nothing else than Johnny knew fishing. but just wanted to share it with people, wanted them to have that experience as well. And, Garrett County is actually leading the way with mountain biking right now. On our conversation yesterday, there, Garrett County has one of the only, if not the only, adaptive mountain bike trails for the state. And they're just constantly looking to Garrett County, leading the way in outdoor recreation and managing and leveraging the outdoor assets that we've spoken about. It's been here, and it's just a matter of connecting the dots and making sure people know about it, connecting with them.
Exactly. And that goes back to the very beginning of my experience in the promotion council. Like I've said a couple of different times now, we were handed the elements. The issue is, how do you connect the tourist with the element? And you need that little, like you say, connecting the dots. You need that dot that that motivates people to come. And once
Mm-hmm.
they come, then they discover, oh, okay, it's all here. But and that's the marketing aspect of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat this morning, Lynn. I appreciate our conversation. Is there anything else that we didn't get to talk about that you wanted to make sure that you mentioned?
No, I think we've covered the waterfront pretty well, Sarah, and I appreciate you thinking of me and the opportunity to share with you and your audience, and just continue to be thrilled over our area and what we have to offer, and new things that are coming along to even further enhance that. It's exciting to me, and I appreciate what you are doing too in helping to communicate all of that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I personally didn't set out to be a dot connector, but I found that I kind of have a passion for it. And while we're sitting here talking, there's a nighttime cross country ski event tonight, and I'm just excited. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's get a group together. Let's make it happen. Let's get people out to experience the snowfall in this magical place that we call home. So,
Well, and would like to say congratulations and best wishes to all of the folks at WISP, not only the family that developed it, but also those that enjoy the slopes every day, and the Four Seasons recreation that it offers as well.
yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I just offer my congratulations and best wishes on their 70th year, and say go for it. Keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. 70 years. It's just crazy. Obviously growing up in the area, WISP has just been an institution in my world. And I just have to really appreciate and congratulate the Heiss family, but also, those that have kept it going and make it better every year. So
Absolutely. And
awesome.
thank you a whole lot, Sarah. You take care and keep up the good work you're doing too.
All right. Well, thank you, Lynn. Again, I appreciate it. I'll get something written up here for the February lakefront, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of it.
Lovely. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.